People ask me why I chose duty over happiness, as if it was a choice, as if I stood at a crossroads and calmly decided which path to take. It wasn't like that. It was never like that. Duty wasn't a choice I made. It was a conclusion I arrived at after exhausting every other option, after fighting quietly, after losing anyway. Today, I'm going to tell you why I chose duty over happiness. Not because I wanted to justify it, but because I need someone to understand that choosing duty didn't make me noble, it just made me survive. And survival, when happiness is the cost, is the loneliest kind of victory. Before I explain why I chose duty, you need to understand what happiness looked like. It had a face, a name, a presence that made everything else feel quiet. She was happiness, not in the abstract, in the specific, undeniable, irreplaceable sense. With her, I didn't feel like the crown prince. I didn't feel the weight of expectation. I didn't feel the pressure of a future I didn't choose. I just felt like I could breathe fully for the first time in my life. She didn't ask me to be perfect. She didn't need me to have all the answers. She didn't expect me to carry the world without breaking. She just wanted me, the real me, the one who questioned everything, who felt too deeply, who was tired of performing strength he didn't always feel, that version of me, the one I hid from everyone else. She saw him, and she loved him anyway. That love was the closest I've ever come to happiness. Real happiness, not the happiness of achievement, not the happiness of fulfilling duty, but the happiness of being seen, of being chosen, of mattering to someone, not because of what I represented, but because of who I was. That was what I had. That was what happiness looked like, and that was what I had to give up. Duty didn't ask politely. It demanded. It said, you cannot have her, not because she's unworthy, but because she doesn't fit. She's not from the right family. She's not part of the system. She's unknown, unpredictable, outside the structure. And the structure cannot tolerate unknowns. Duty said, you will marry appropriately. You will choose someone we've chosen, someone who serves the institution, someone who strengthens alliances, someone safe. Duty said, your personal happiness is secondary. The family comes first. The nation comes first. The future comes first. You come last. And if you refuse, if you choose her over duty, you lose everything, your position, your family's trust, your inheritance, your purpose, everything you were raised to protect, everything you were trained to become, all of it gone. That was the demand, not negotiable, not flexible, absolute. Choose duty or lose everything. And they knew I would choose duty because I was built to choose duty from birth. Every lesson, every expectation, every moment of training, it all pointed to one truth. Duty is identity, and abandoning duty means abandoning yourself. So they didn't need to threaten me. They just needed to wait. Wait for me to exhaust every alternative. Wait for me to realize there was no way out. Wait for me to accept the inevitable. And eventually I did. I tried to choose happiness. I really tried. I thought about walking away, about giving up the title, about choosing love over legacy. I imagined it, what life would look like outside the palace, without the weight, without the expectations, without the role, just me and her, building something real, something ours. For a moment, that vision felt possible. It felt like freedom. But then reality set in. Walking away didn't just mean losing my position. It meant betraying everyone who had invested in me. My father, my family, the people who had prepared me for this role since I was born. It meant abandoning a system that depended on me, a nation that was counting on me, a future that had already been written with my name in it. And I couldn't do that. Not because I lacked courage, but because I couldn't live with the guilt of being selfish, of choosing personal happiness over collective stability, of putting one person, even the person I loved most, above millions. I also realized something painful. Even if I chose her, we wouldn't be happy, not really, because I would carry the guilt forever. I would resent the choice. I would wonder if I had made a mistake. I would look at her and see everything I gave up, not her fault, but the reality of the sacrifice, and that resentment, slow, quiet, inevitable, would poison everything. So even happiness had conditions. It required me to be okay with abandoning duty, and I couldn't be, because duty is woven into who I am. It's not something I do. It's something I am, and removing it would mean removing myself. So I couldn't choose happiness, not because I didn't want it, but because wanting it wasn't enough. The moment I chose duty wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, painful. Final, I sat with her one last time, and I told her the truth, not the version I had been giving her for months, the real truth. I can't do this. I can't choose you, no matter how much I want to, no matter how much this hurts. I can't. She didn't cry. She didn't fight. She just looked at me with a sadness so deep it broke me. And she said, I know. I've known for a while. I was just hoping you'd prove me wrong. Those words destroyed me because they meant she had been waiting, hoping, believing that love could win, and I had let her hope when I already knew the ending. That cruelty, unintentional but real, is what I can't forgive myself for. Not choosing duty, but letting her believe I might choose differently, when deep down I always knew I wouldn't. She left that day, quietly, with dignity, without making me feel worse than I already did. And I let her go, not because I stopped loving her, but because keeping her would have meant destroying both of us. That was the moment I chose duty, not proudly, not willingly, but inevitably, because duty didn't give me a choice. It just waited for me to accept the only option that was ever real. Choosing duty cost me happiness, that's obvious, but it cost me more than that. It cost me belief, belief that my life could include something I chose freely, belief that personal fulfillment was achievable, belief that love and duty could coexist. All of that died, and what replaced it was acceptance, cold, heavy, permanent acceptance that my life would never truly be mine, that happiness was a privilege I was never promised, that duty would always win. Choosing duty also cost me connection, real connection, the kind built on vulnerability, on being seen, on mattering to someone because of who you are, not what you represent. I have relationships now, a wife, children, family, but none of them know me the way she did, because none of them were chosen, they were assigned, arranged, part of the structure. And structure, no matter how stable, is not intimate. It's functional, respectful, but distant. And that distance, that permanent, unchangeable distance, is what I live with now. Choosing duty also cost me hope. I don't hope for happiness anymore. I don't imagine alternatives. I don't wonder, what if? Because what if doesn't matter. The choice is made, the path is set, and hoping for something different just makes the present harder to bear. So I stopped hoping, and I started surviving. Surviving is not the same as living, but it's all I have left. People assume I regret choosing duty. I don't. Not because it was the right choice, but because regretting it would make the pain unbearable. Regret requires believing you could have chosen differently. I couldn't. Not really. So instead of regret, I carry acceptance. I accept that my life was never going to include personal happiness. I accept that duty is larger than desire. I accept that some sacrifices are permanent, and I accept that this is the cost of the role I was born into. Acceptance is not peace, but it's sustainable. And sustainability, when happiness isn't available, is enough. I also don't regret it because I believe duty matters. I believe that serving something larger than yourself gives life meaning. I believe that sacrifice, when it serves a purpose, is worth it. Not joyful, but meaningful. And meaning is what keeps me going. When happiness is gone, when connection is absent, when hope has faded, meaning remains. The knowledge that my life serves a purpose, that my sacrifice contributes to stability, that future generations will benefit from the choices I made, even if I didn't. That meaning doesn't make me happy, but it makes the unhappiness bearable, and bearable is all I need. I live now with the consequences of choosing duty, a marriage that functions but doesn't fulfill, a role that demands but doesn't reward, a life that serves others but empties me. I don't complain. Complaining would suggest I expected something different. I didn't. I knew what I was choosing. I knew what it would cost, and I chose it anyway, so I carry it without resentment, without bitterness, just with the quiet, constant weight of knowing what I gave up. I also live with the memory of her, the woman I chose duty over. She's not part of my life anymore, but she's part of me. In every line of poetry I write, in every quiet moment when I'm alone, in every reminder that I'm human beneath the role, that memory doesn't make me sad, it makes me aware. Aware that I'm capable of love, even if I'm not allowed to live it. And that awareness, painful as it is, keeps me from disappearing completely into duty. Why did I choose duty over happiness? Because happiness required me to abandon everything else, and I couldn't do that. Not because I'm noble, but because I'm programmed to believe that duty is identity, that sacrifice is strength, that personal happiness is secondary to collective stability, and that programming, built over a lifetime, was stronger than love. I chose duty because it was the only choice I was ever actually given. Happiness was an illusion, a possibility that existed only until I reached for it, and then it disappeared, replaced by reality, by expectation, by the inevitable. So I chose duty, not happily, not willingly, but completely. And I live now with that choice, not in regret, but in acceptance that my life was never mine, that happiness was never promised, and that duty, for better or worse, is all I have. It's not enough, but it's sustainable, and sustainable, when you've lost everything else, becomes the goal. That's why I chose duty over happiness, not because it was right, but because it was inevitable. And inevitable, in my world, is the only kind of choice that exists. If you've ever had to choose duty over desire, you understand it's not noble. It's not easy. It's just what some of us do to survive. Thank you for listening.